Groundhog Day has always been a strange tradition to me, ever since I learned what a groundhog really is. It was my older brother who taught me, and I'll never forget it. But I guess, just like everyone else, I'll never speak on it either, and I'll keep the sham about those timid little mammals alive. That being said, I need to know that I'm not alone in hiding the truth about groundhogs, those buried secrets. For this reason, I'm sharing a key childhood memory to the internet, anonymously of course. It was Christmas several years ago. I was much younger then and far more ignorant. My family, me, my older brother, and our parents had rented a winter cottage in the countryside for the holiday weekend. They wanted to get away from the noise of the city and retreat to the old-fashioned ways of living. Furnaces and firewood, no connection to the outside world and all that. The rustic essentials. All my brother and I cared about were the wide open spaces of trees and fresh powder without one chaperone in sight. On the first evening, while our parents were preparing dinner in the cottage, my brother and I were out playing in the snow, building forts and staging great battles with snowballs. Then, to our surprise, another kid around our age appeared from within the trees, and we stopped. "Hey, you guys must be the new visitors. Do you think I could join in?" We shrugged and let him over. For the rest of the evening, we teamed up as brothers against the alien invader, pelting him with snowballs from our impenetrable forts. He quickly got tired of our camping. "Hey, you guys should follow me to this clearing I know of. There's way more open space. Don't worry, I live around here, so it's safe." "Nah, man, it's dinner time for us. Maybe next time,
Both of you are a bunch of chicken shits."
We ignored him and went inside the cottage. Dinner was on the table waiting for us, and man, was it delicious. Don't knock firewood smoked ham until you've tried it. That stuff put us right to sleep. The next morning was Christmas Day, and also our last full day at the cottage. We were to leave the following morning on Sunday. For the first little while, we were stuck inside, opening presents with our parents and doing all sorts of obligatory bonding activities. We were itching to get outside the whole time. Snow just doesn't fall the same in the city as it does out in the wilderness. Finally, when they started on dinner once again, my brother and I were free to resume our snowball fight. We built up our defense forts even more, but right as we were about to launch the first attacks, the same kid from yesterday showed up again. "You boys gonna hide in your little trenches all day again? Or are you gonna come join me on the battlefield like real men?" His delivery struck a nerve in both of us as we were huddled with our faces in the snow. "Fine, man. We'll go, but we're gonna destroy you." "That's what I like to hear." "Wait, let me tell Mom and Dad we're leaving first." "Oh, come on. Do you need Mommy and Daddy's permission for everything?" This kid and his harsh words were getting to me. I gave in and joined my brother in his vow to pummel that jerk with snowballs. So, we followed him through the forest for about half a mile until we reached the massive flat clearing surrounded by huge, towering trees. The kid threw first, without warning, so my brother and I teamed up again and did battle for several hours. Not that I liked the kid, but it sure was fun to have a real enemy for a snowball fight. After a long, heartfelt fury of battle, all three of us were ready for a break. The local kid retreated into the woods for a piss, while my brother congratulated me on a war well won. As soon as the kid returned, he was back at it with the snowballs, except they weren't normal snowballs. They were yellow. He nailed both of us in the face with yellow snow before we could react.
"Piss balls! Get got, chumps!"
I started to cry, but my brother had a different reaction. I saw the rage flare up in his eyes before he ran the kid down and threw him into the snow, grappling on top of him and laying into him with fists, swing after swing, without end. All I could think about was how late it was getting, and how we'd need to get back to the cottage before it got dark.
Stop! Stop! I'll call the cops! You'll go to jail! You're assaulting me!
My brother was unfazed. He continued to beat that poor kid into a bloody pulp. Eventually, there were no more screams. Yet still, My brother maintained his barrage of punches, splattering crimson into the snow surrounding them. I was so confused. I'd never seen my brother do anything like that. When he finally let up, he came to me and put a bloodied hand on my shoulder. Hey, little bro. Help me bury this kid in the snow.
What?
Hurry up or I'll beat the crap out of you too. The shock of the situation sent me into autopilot. I helped dig the hole on my hands and knees, still tearing up, and when I caught a look at that poor kid's face, or what was left of it, I nearly vomited. As we covered the body, the sun began to disappear beyond the horizon, along with my innocence. The rest of that weekend was unbearably tense. We returned to the cottage in darkness, late for dinner, and got interrogated by our parents. Neither of us said anything about what happened, just a load of flimsy excuses. We didn't eat much either. We couldn't. That night, when neither of us could hope to sleep, my brother did his best to explain everything. That was just a groundhog, little bro. Don't worry about anything. Lots of jerks like him become groundhogs. People call jerks pigs and hogs all the time, and the ones people hate the most end up in the ground, buried in the dirt or snow, like we just did. Haven't you heard of Groundhog's Day? It was a lot for me to handle, learning that what we did was actually a Western tradition, that those little rodents are just used to conceal the grim reality. I still find it hard to believe, but you tell me.
Santa Claus is a fat, phony fraud. I know it. You know it. Everybody knows it. The big difference between you and me is that I had the guts to go and prove it. All these non-player characters in society masquerading as thinking human beings, just believing the ridiculous narrative that's been fed to them. That some obese man breaks into their house every year and gives them useless junk. Any logical person with his legendary power would just rob the whole world blind. It's absolutely shameful that parents indoctrinate their children into this farce in this modern day. No wonder we can't face our existential threats. We're too caught up in fairy tales like Santa Claus. But I'm here to put an end to this, once and for all. Just this last year, I have eyewitness indisputable proof that there is no man or being Santa Claus, but that the myth of the overweight home invader is perpetuated by an unspoken society of Santa Claus imposters. I've been trying to catch my local agent of the conspiracy for years, camping out on the living room couch every Christmas Eve, but every night passing out from the boredom, or maybe the chemtrails, seemingly moments before his arrival. Each time he slipped away, my curiosity burned hotter. 365 days is a lot of time, but that's how long I had to wait every time I screwed up. So, I learned to be prepared. To finally catch him, I trekked out into the snow and bought 2 highly caffeinated energy drinks and chugged them before bedtime. That would keep me awake, but I knew it wouldn't be enough proof just to see him. I think I had a pretty ingenious solution to this problem with a quick purchase on the dark web a few weeks prior. Every night before Christmas, my mother would bake cookies, and my father would make sure to tell me,
"Hey, son, don't forget to set out some milk and cookies for Santa. It's the eldest child's duty to Christmas."
"Yes, Father." And this year, I made sure to set everything out after everyone else had already gone to bed, to make sure it was nice and fresh for him. If Santa Claus wants some milk and cookies, he can have the best there is around. It's the perfect bait for the glutton. By 11 o'clock, I was positioned on the couch next to the fireplace with my eyes closed, faking sleep like a pro despite all the caffeine coursing through my veins. After what felt like hours of waiting in a deep meditative state, I finally heard him making his way into the house like a bull in a china closet. But when I opened my eyes, he wasn't standing at the hearth. He was already at the Christmas tree, down on one knee and laying out presents.
Hey, how'd you get in here?
Ooh! Or should I say, ho ho ho! What are you doing up so late?
Who are you and how did you get in my house?
Why, I'm Santa Claus, young man, and I came in through the chimney. How else would I get in?
You're the St. Nicholas.
Of course I am, son. I came with all the presents you and your little brother wished for.
Well then, my apologies. Just don't forget your milk and cookies, Santa.
Oh, thank you, kiddo. That's very sweet of you.
As he waddled over to the end table with the midnight snack, I didn't take my eyes off him for a moment. I wanted to absorb every detail of this sighting. The way he crammed those sugar bombs into his gullet with all the crumbs falling into his tangled mess of a beard, and the downright wasteful speed with which he chugged the entire tall glass of milk. Disgusting. After he finished his diabetic binge, he didn't look me in the eye. He just stumbled back to the tree to set out the rest of the presents, and started on his way out through the fireplace.
I guess I'd better be going by now. Lots of other houses to...
My plan was working perfectly. I was just about to crack the big lie.
Son, what was in that...
He collapsed to the floor with a huge thud, just as I uncovered the identity of the imposter. I knew that voice, and I should have known it earlier. It was my father. My mother and my little brother both awoke to the startling sound of his fall. They rushed out of their rooms and looked on in horror, like their entire worlds had been shattered.
My boy, what have you done?
My little brother started bawling, but my mother wasn't there for him. She rushed to my father's aid, but it was too late. It was a pitiful sight, really. I admit, I had to take drastic measures to uncover the truth of the Santa Claus conspiracy. But even after all the sacrifices I've made, my resolve is still strong, because I know that it was all in the honest pursuit of truth.
Even if you've known somebody for years, that doesn't mean you can trust them. It's almost impossible to truly know who someone is deep down. You can never tell when someone will betray you. Take this past New Year's, for instance. I surprised my girlfriend at the time with a stay at a very romantic cottage in the woods. It wasn't until we drove all the way out into the wilderness that I realized just how secluded the little holiday home was. But my girlfriend, Cindy, seemed quite pleased with it. As I was taking in the luggage, I noticed a snowman in front of the house. I didn't think much of it then. I thought it was a fitting decoration, with the classic top hat and carrot nose. Very seasonal. My girl and I settled right into the cozy digs and made dinner. We had planned for this whole retreat to be relaxing and romantic, but that entire meal was consumed in silence. A tense atmosphere hung over us, though I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Afterwards, I felt the long drive catch up to me with the sudden urge to test out the plumbing in the cottage toilet. There was no cell service out where we were, so I got bored just sitting there. That's when I noticed that there was a curtained window in the bathroom. Simply out of curiosity, I reached up and pulled back the curtain, and right there was the snowman, staring right at me. I closed the curtain and jumped to my feet, frantically pulling up my pants. That sight sent a jolt through me that cut my business short, no doubt about it. I rushed out and waddled up to the front door.
John, what's up?
I threw open the door and peered out into the frigid sunset snow. The snowman was still there, right where it was when we got there. It hadn't moved an inch.
John, close the door. It's cold.
I slammed the door and stormed back into the bathroom, yanking back the curtain. Nothing. I swear whoever's watching me is asking to get it! I stammered back into the main room in a heated state, when I finally remembered the whole purpose of the trip.
There's nobody watching us, John, honey. It's just you and me.
Later that night, we both laid out in bed, exhausted. Cindy had done her best to distract me from the snowman problem, but even after she'd been asleep for a couple of hours, I couldn't relax. That tense feeling was still churning. Outside, the winds were picking up, whistling through the trees and around the walls of the house. In all that noise, another sound invaded any remaining semblance of peace. A soft tapping on glass from a window somewhere in the building. A chill ran down my spine. Very quickly, it grew to the sound like a fist banging on the pane, about to burst through. I shot up out of bed so fast I almost woke Cindy. Following the sound to the living room, I could hear the ever-loudening banging coming from the window right by the door. I inched closer, afraid, but about to pull back the curtain, and that's when the whole window exploded under the pressure and cut up my face with a shower of glass shards. The howling wind rushed in from the broken window, blowing back the curtain, and standing right there on the porch, the snowman again, piercing me with his soulless button eyes.
Didn't I tell you not to screw with me? Huh? Now look what I gotta do! I know you're not just a snowman, you peeping punk!
The fury didn't subside with the snowman's destruction. I felt I was catching on to whatever was happening, and I was going to stop it. I stomped out barefoot, looking for the footprints of a prankster or a peeping Tom or somebody, but the moonlight revealed only fresh, undisturbed powder. Frustrated, I hobbled back inside on nearly frozen feet to wash the blood and glass from my face and maybe start up the fireplace and thaw out my souls. But, of course, the first thing I saw in the bathroom was that rotten snow freak staring right through the window.
Didn't I just destroy you? Are my fists not good enough? Fine, I got something else for you.
I'd seen it earlier, but I didn't think I'd use it for anything but chopping firewood. The rustic axe mounted above the fireplace. I plucked it from its resting place and took it in both hands, ready to go back outside and finish the job. But once I opened the door, I heard myself thinking with reason. No footprints. No footprints. Somebody's playing a game with me. This snowman is just a pawn. Yes, just a pawn. There can only be one culprit. Yes, only one person it could be. Oh, Cindy! I figured out that little joke you've been pulling on me. I walked back into the bedroom and stood over the sleepy Cindy, who was just starting to stir. She looked up at me with confused eyes, like she didn't know.
Huh? John? What are you...
Hey! What are you doing?
I swung the axe down into her pretty chest with a surge of relief, putting my weary mind at ease. But her screaming was messing up my moment of zen, so I yanked it out of her ribcage and plunged it back in with all its heft again and again, until she finally shut up and stopped that horrible gurgling sound. Then, I thought, might as well be as thorough with you as I was with the snowman. So, I made sure to purge every shred of aggression in my heart.
I'm not stupid! I don't like games! You shouldn't put me on edge!
After a while, there wasn't much left of silly little Cindy. That, and the bed was starting to break. So, I started that fire I was thinking about earlier, and really got relaxing through the rest of my vacation. Looking back, even though she betrayed me, I do regret how I handled the situation. I was a little brash, but maybe next time I go on a cottage retreat, my new girlfriend will remember to pack my meds.